preview video, writing equations given a point and slope, and writing equations given 2 points. This video will be an introduction to writing equations given this information. It is not meant to replace a lesson. This video can also be used as a review video. So for those of you that have already learned this concept and just want to see the examples done again, this is not meant to replace learning it, but it's a nice way to hear the explanation come from me a second time. The way we write equations is y equals mx plus b. This is called slope-intercept form. The y and the x are the coordinates. The m is the slope, and the b is the y-intercept. The two pieces of information we need to know in order to write our equation are m, which is our slope, and b, which is our y-intercept. Think back to when we graph, how we always begin at the y-intercept and then use our rise over run in order to figure out where to put the other points on the line. When we write our equations, we want them to look like this. We have the equation y equals 2x plus 4, where our slope is 2 and our y-intercept is 4. We have y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 16, where our slope is negative 3 over 2 and our y-intercept is 16. And we have our equation y equals x minus 7, where our slope is an implied 1, which is the coefficient of this x, and our y-intercept is negative 7. So in other words, all of our equations we want in the form y equals some number x, and then plus or minus, if it's a negative y-intercept, some other number. And our goal is to figure out what those are. Keep in mind when I say always in this form, sometimes we'll have a 0, which means that we won't actually see every single part of this. I'm going to do 2 quick examples with you. Just watch. You don't need to write anything. Again, this is just a preview to help you see the content before we cover it in class. Write the equation of the line with a slope of 4 that goes through 3, 4. So I always will start with y equals mx plus b. And I know that the two things that I want are my slope and my y-intercept. So I want to know, do they give me these two pieces of information in this problem? They don't. What they give me is the slope, which I will label m, and they give me a point, which I know is an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. So instead of initially being able to fill in my slope and my y-intercept, I can fill in my y for 14, I can fill in my 4 for my slope, I can fill in 3 for my x, and now I'll be able to find what my y-intercept is. So using inverse operations, I can simplify, and then I can isolate b. And now, since m was given to me in the problem, and I just found b, I've filled in both of the white circles that I initially need to be able to write my equation. So my equation is y equals my slope 4, x plus my y-intercept 2. Again, my goal is always to write y equals mx plus b and filling in m for my slope and b for my y-intercept. If they're not both given to you, you need to figure out if you can substitute in the values that are given to you to find whichever one of these two is missing. This may be a good stopping point for some of you, but if you'd like to watch the next example, I will show how to find the equation if you're given 2 ordered pairs, or sets of coordinates. Example 2. Write the equation of the line that goes through the points 1, 6 and negative 2, 9. As usual, I'm looking for my slope m and my y-intercept b. In this case, I'm not given my slope, and I'm also not given my y-intercept. So I need to figure out what I can do to find one of those. I know I have an xy, and I have another xy. So I've labeled them x1, y1, and x2, y2. I can substitute those in for x and y, but since I'll still have an m and a b, that won't help me yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my formula to find the slope in order to be able to fill in m. So step 1 is to find the slope. My formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or rise over run. I substituted in my values, and when I simplified, I got 5. Keep in mind when you do this, remember that we have subtraction, so if we were subtracting a negative, it would change to a plus sign. A negative over a negative is a positive, so my slope is 5. Now I know xy, another xy, and my slope. So in my equation, I'm going to repeat all of the steps that I did in the previous example. So in y equals mx plus b, I'm going to fill in my y, my m, and my x, and I will solve for b. Keep in mind there are an infinite number of points on a line. I happen to have 2 of them right here, and I decided to choose the first one, 1, 6, for my x and y. I could have chosen the other one, but I know that I make fewer mistakes if I use only positive numbers. So now I will solve this equation for b. And I get 1. So I can write my final equation because I have the 2 things that I needed, the slope and the y-intercept. My final equation, therefore, is y equals 5x plus 1. My slope is 5, my y-intercept is 1, and I should be able to substitute any of these points in order to make sure that it's a true equation and that they are in fact both solutions.